I'm looking for a new podcast, one that preferably is hosted by a UF Hall of Famer, one that airs every weekday that would bring me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions. Siri, is there such a show?
Have you heard of PodUp with Matthews in the morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any podcast platform?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? UF Hall of Famer Shane Matthews has a show every weekday. I'm gonna go check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Siri.
Good morning, live edition, Wednesday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We'll have JC and we'll have Graham Hall. He can give you all the updates on all the recruiting news that changes daily, whether it's good for the good or for the bad. But if you missed it last night, the Gators defeat FAMU. I don't think they played real well, but they won the ball game and stay undefeated. And you had some action last night. You'll have more action tonight. You got the Country Music Awards tonight. What else? JC, you're on the tight. It's Chuck Knoll has joined us on the program.
Yeah. Well, listen, QB, this has been a great month. I mean, we were talking before the show here. So many great things have happened. And, you know, what I don't want the Florida football program to become is like a high school love affair where 1 week it's hot and heavy. We're going to Crystal. We're going to Burger King. You know, we're going to have a good time. We're going to McDonald's. We're going to hang out in the parking lot at Walmart. We're going to sit on the back of a tailgate. Everything's wonderful. Or, yeah, I don't want anything to do with it. Get that person away from me, him or her. I can't stand them. They're awful. Blah, blah, blah. They lie. This, that. Meaning, if the Gators show up on Saturday at noon and really play hard against Mississippi, you're going to see this love affair continue that began last.
They're going to play, JC. They're going to play hard.
They're going to play hard. So let's just say that. And I think it's really exciting because there may be some consistency with what DJ Lagway is bringing with this team and the elevation of all these other players just coming out and playing hard and doing things like, you know, Tariq Sapp, Shamar James, Jaden Ball, Elijah Badger. We've got other guys to talk about now. And I think all of these players are elevated by the play of the quarterback. And that has taken the attention away from and off of this coach who we've been talking about ad nauseum for, the greater part of 2.5 years. So this is what I'm looking forward to. We've got people coming in from the SIP. I've got the Mississippians invading the house. We talked about this the other day. It's going to be fantastic, a lot of fun, and we hope that the Florida Gators, and by the way, these Mississippians are Florida Gator fans that are coming for the game. They're not Mississippi fans, although one of them, I think, really is. Actually, two of them are. But the point is that we're going to have a lot of Gator fans in the house. It's going to enjoy the weekend. I don't know if I'm going to the game or not. That is yet to be determined, but I'm excited for the weekend. I wish, like you, the game was later in the day, but we'll still have a great day regardless. And if the right result is the outcome, man, what a turnaround. This is like the theme of November, the month of turnaround stories, the turnaround in the country, the turnaround politically, the turnaround in the Gator football season, and maybe the turnaround in the future direction of what we love, and that's football. So I'm.
They're playing devil's advocate here, JC. What happens if we lose?
Well, then, we have to beat FSU. Got to beat FSU. I don't know if I want to take her to Crystal today. You know what? She can go with her friends to Crystal. We're not going to Crystal. Screw that. I'm going to practice. Whatever the case may be. But I think, look, play hard, play strong. Mississippi is one of the best teams you guys are going to see come to this building in a long time because they are very balanced. They play good offense. They play phenomenal defense. They have athletes everywhere, and they have a coach that knows what he's doing, I think, on game day, even though a lot of times he's lost big games like this. But
let's put it this way. This could be the most important game in the history of Ole Miss football.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about it.
Absolutely.
Because they control their destiny. They win Saturday, win in the Egg Bowl. They are in the 12-team playoff. Okay.
Yeah, that is true.
It's an important game for us, but it is extremely important for Ole Miss.
Oh, it's huge.
Real quick, we got a text here on the Titan our text line. It says, I'll be at the game Saturday. The only thing that scares me is 3rd and 4th down defense. I know you say it's bend, but don't break. But Ole Miss is a dang good team, and I just don't know how well that will work. Lane's the type of coach that'll go for it on fourth down on his own 30 because he knows he can get
Let
it.
him.
What do you think?
Go ahead.
Look, the only reason I say this, bend but don't break, is because we played zone because we cannot cover the opposing team's receivers man to man.
If they play man to man with Mississippi, they're going to get run out of the building. You can't do that. You must keep these receivers and everybody in front of you, and keep the ball out of the end zone off big plays. You don't want these big plays, the shock plays, these chunk plays, to hurt you in a game like this.
I will say this again, whether people agree with me or they don't, because I don't care. It's what my eyes tell me, and it's what I truly believe. This is the best team that we have played all year.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, I think it's these guys in Georgia. And
I mean, Georgia's very good, but I think the reason I lean Ole Miss is because they have so much explosibility on offense. Georgia does not.
Okay, that's and I think defensively Mississippi is just a little bit better. But that's going to be the challenge for this offense. But we have weapons on this offense that you can now talk about and get excited about. You can finally say we got a running back that's a threat to house it. We've got a wide receiver that's a threat to house it. Get open. That's what I want to hear about is how Florida's going to attack this very staunch Mississippi defense. And believe me, if they do and they're successful, oh, Lord.
We got to block their front four. They're very good.
They are.
Might be the best front four we've seen all year. Josh from Mississippi says on the Titan Mark text line, QB, when I met JC at the LSU game, he was double fisting with a beer in one hand and a case of beer in the other. He's very skilled.
I wanted to be a gentleman and carry the 12-pack for the lady that was with us, my friend's wife, to the tailgate so she wouldn't have to carry it. And Josh, you are very observant. And I love the fact that he brought his beautiful family down here to watch the game, his son and wife. And I mean, it was just a great day for everyone involved. And, I think it was his son, or was it his daughter? Anyway, it was a great day. It's a great day. And Josh got to see a fantastic game for her first ever game. So, God bless them. And, they took the time, they spent the money, and they rolled on down here just like many others did. And that was a hell of a great environment for Florida football at night against a team that always gets that night advantage. And so I'm really pleased that happened the way it did. QB, we saw the 12-team CFP bracket projection come out last night. And Mississippi, as you mentioned, comes in at number 10, and this is a fluid thing. It changes weekly and so on and so forth. The one topic I want to bring up that I think Greg Sankey is concerned about, and that I think all of us are, and that's been talked about quite a bit, is that the loser of the SEC championship game, if it were to have two losses, would be then so as much kicked out of potential college football playoff implications. And what I heard Ward Manuel say on the show last night, QB, because I actually watched that show last night, is that, and what made me feel better is the team that like Alabama, who I believe is basically 2 wins away from going to the SEC championship game. What he said was we hold teams that make their championship game in very, very high regard. And you can't have a team sitting at the house, like let's say Ole Miss, if they finish out 10-2, and jump somebody who went through a 12-game season and lost a heartbreaker in the championship game against Texas. You just can't punish that team. And so I think there will be 2 teams that make the SEC championship game advancing to the college football playoff, unless, let's say, it's Tennessee, who I think has really dug a hole for themselves after losing to Georgia. And I don't think Tennessee will be in Atlanta. I think it'll be Alabama or Georgia against the winner of the A&M Texas game, assuming A&M beats Auburn, which is a big assumption because that's not a guarantee either. So, QB, that's what we've got coming in the SEC championship game. Then when you hear, well, the winner of the conference gets a bye week, you know what? These games will not be played from December 7th until December the 30th. So it's not a week off. It's basically 3 weeks off if you win your championship game. And for the team that doesn't win and makes it to the playoff, they get a week off. There are no games on December 14th. So everybody who plays in the championship game that makes the tournament will either play 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later on the 21st or 20th of December. The 14th has the Army-Navy game as the only college football game being played on that weekend in December. So everybody's going to have a chance to heal up, rest up. And my assurances of the SEC championship game are back now for the team that loses to be able to make the college football playoff, regardless of what happens around the country. I think the loser will go, and I think, obviously, the winner will get a bye week.
Yeah.
Spent a lot there.
You know
I hope
what's
everybody
interesting
got
about that? I saw a little bit of that, and they put the brackets up.
Yeah, yeah,
There was not one SEC team
yeah.
that had
No,
a bye.
no.
No, Texas had a bye. I
Yeah,
think
Texas.
everybody else was on the road the first game.
Yeah, yeah.
Georgia
Well,
was on the road.
so
Alabama was on the road. Ole Miss was on the road.
QB, I can tell you right now, if Alabama ends up in South Bend, Indiana, I don't care what it's going to cost. I don't care how hard it's going to be to get there. If I have to drive, I'll go, and I'll be at touchdown Jesus. And look at Georgia at Penn State. Anybody in their mind think that Penn State's going to beat Georgia Bulldogs? And then what about Indiana and Mississippi?
Oh.
Does anybody in their mind think that Mississippi, if they're 10-2 and they rage through the rest of their season, will have any problems with an Indiana team? Now, maybe, but I'm not betting on that. So the SEC is going to flex in this projection with four
But the crazy thing is, as of right now, none of them host a game.
None of them, and not even. And this was my problem with the bye week games. The teams that win their conference, they don't get to play a home campus game. They have to go play 3 neutral sites.
But remember that home campus game. It's not your normal student bodies and all those people.
No, it's gonna be corporate. But I don't care either. These kids are gonna find a way into that stadium because it's on campus. Somehow that's gonna happen. And I do agree with you. I think that sucks that you're gonna be jacking up these ticket prices, but that's the way the football money train works. But it's still great to have them. Very happy we have it. But there is no question in my mind that we are moving toward a 16 team playoff, which will include home games, campus games for the eventual conference champions. Because for a conference champion to win a national championship, you're going to ask a fan base to follow their team through 3 neutral site games. I just don't like that. I don't think that's right. The fan bases can't follow that. It's not practical. Now, they can follow it on television. But what if you want to go and support, So I don't know. I think there's going to be some tweaking, QB, but I think it's going to be a lot better than what we've had and a lot more exciting for the month of December with the anticipation of these games and the fact that we're going to get to watch college football and not just be stuck with the damn Tennessee Titans at Chicago on Sunday, or something like that literally will cure insomnia. So I'm excited about college football in December, but they got to tweak this playoff thing, man. These neutral site games are just trying to incorporate these bowls, and I think I've had enough of that. And I think these conference championship games cannot be an elimination game for the team that goes through a 12-game season and makes the conference championship. You cannot eliminate that team if they lose that game. I just don't think that's right.
Electronics World, integration and design specialist for smart home automation and entertainment, affordable local installation, service, and support. Electronics World.
These guys are going to play Ohio State at noon as well.
Do you think they get clobbered, JC?
Yeah, it's all about everybody's talking about how well they're going to play. That's whether or not they make it, if they play well or if they don't play well. I don't think they're going to get clobbered because QB, I don't think there's anything special or great about this Ohio State team relative to some of the teams that I did think were great. I thought the C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison team was a lot better than this team with Will Howard and whoever else is catching the ball. Robert Smith and Jigba play for Ohio State in that Rose Bowl game. Those were better Ohio State teams. So I think Indiana's going to stay with them, QB. I think you take the points in that game on the Hard Rock sports betting app where it's legal to make your dreams come true to make your dreams come true in the state of Florida. You can take Indiana plus 11.5 points. That's what I think.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to some of these people. Right. I got to get to a couple of ththese texts. There's a million texts, but okay.
I'm doing a lot of talking today.
You did. You rambled a lot.
But I said, okay, good. Good.
There are multiple people that have texted me letting me know, JC, that we beat Kentucky and Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. Okay.
Yes, that's a fact. That actually did happen.
So a lot of people think, why do I think Ole Miss is so great since they lost to LSU, who also the Gators beat?
Just tell them.
If you go back and watch those games, which I watched both of them, Ole Miss dominated both games.
Mm-hmm.
They just sputtered around against Kentucky, and then one play, and then they missed a field goal to either tie it up or win it. I can't remember. Kind of the same thing happened against LSU. Can't worry about it. I still think they're the most complete team in the SEC. Can the Gators beat them? Absolutely, they can.
Absolutely, they can.
But this is the best team that we faced all year, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
No,
and
fair.
If we beat them, I'll be a happy camper.
Oh, Yeah, but you got to love the fact this is what I've lived through for 40 years watching Florida and Alabama play. And now I'm glad that you get to finally watch Florida and Mississippi play. The team that you
My two
have love
teams.
for. You have love for that Mississippi team. Why wouldn't you? You're a legacy there. Well, not a legacy, but your parents played and cheered there, and you grew up watching that school. Kind of like me with Florida. I did go to Florida. One guy wants to know if I went to Florida. I spent two years at University of Florida as a student at the J School, the journalism school, communications, Weimer Hall. So yeah, I have a lot of Florida ties. So I watched the Gators. My dad took me to Florida games. We sat on row 15 on the 38-yard line, and I always went when my mom didn't want to go. So I loved it. But I went to school at Alabama as well. That was my undergrad. But
So here we go. 31 Ember says Shane seems to be a bit of a homer for Ole Miss.
Well,
We just explained the whole situation, did we not?
There's nothing wrong with that, Ember. Come on, brother.
Yeah.
He grew up there.
I will explain it one more time.
Go ahead.
My dad played 4 years at Ole Miss.
My mom cheered.
My mom cheered at Ole Miss. I went to every Ole Miss game there was until I started being recruited my junior year in high school. Then we started going elsewhere to different games.
Right.
I will always love Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I was going to transfer to Ole Miss in 1989.
And then some guy showed up.
There was no transfer. The transfer portal had been open. My ass would have been gone.
Think about that. Think about how your life changed by not having the transfer portal available to you.
Right.
And how you were able to meet a guy that shaped the rest of your formed your career from there on. You learned so much. You met Kerwin Bell.
Yep.
So there you go.
So this is a great game. I can't wait to go to Oxford next week. Somebody on here asked if they could fly into Oxford. No, you cannot. For the game next year, you got to fly into Memphis.
Memphis, Tennessee. And if you really want to be adventurous, find your way to Columbus, Mississippi, and drive that way.
The Triangle Airport, whatever it's called, Golden Triangle.
Further north. But Memphis is the only way. It's the closest way.
Memphis is the closest. Yeah. This is from 626. I don't know where that is. Area code. He said there are other podcasters out there who still think the entire fan base is still 100% fire everybody. Do you believe this?
Oh, I do.
You do?
Yeah, but I think that number is becoming smaller as we go.
Well, I think it changes weekly.
I do. You're right. It does. But we're starting to see things that we haven't seen in a while, and that is other players stepping up finally to be
right. But if we lose this week, or let's just say we get blasted.
Well, if you get blasted, that's a problem.
It's going to change. So
when you're not taking her to
look, as everybody knows, I've always been a fan of Billy Napier for what he does with the program. I picked us to win 8 games this year. We still could get to 8, quite honestly, JC. Think about it.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you go 7-5 and win your postseason game.
Yeah.
There you have it. QB is a prophet. You are like the prophet. We'll put you on Netflix as the football prophecies. As
I said, Saturday's going to be difficult because Ole Miss has to win the game or their seat. I mean, look, they're done. This is like, I don't play poker, but people say you're all in. This was their year to be all in because they spent all the money on
I think
on certain positions they went and bought in the portal.
How many seniors do they have? I mean, how many?
They have like 35 seniors, I think, on their roster.
They're like BYU. They're old, but they're very good athletically speaking, and they've got a coach that I think has learned so much with the mistakes he's made in games like this that matter, and so that makes him very dangerous. He's not going to go for it on his 25-yard line on 4th and 3 in the swamp. He's not doing that. And that's good for them. But Florida needs to have them in 4th and 3 on their own 25-yard line and get the ball, get off the field, and let the offense go. So
Tommy says on the Titan MR text line, Saturday's win put a large pressure bandage on a gaping wound. Now see if we can spoil another team's chance at the playoffs and put ourselves in position to finish the year on a 4-game win streak. Yeah.
Barone, I'm from Gainesville, Florida. I'm a Buchholz Bobcat, a Fort Clark Patriot, a Terwilliger Twister. Terwilliger is no longer in existence where I went to
Fort Clark aren't the Patriots.
They were when I went, brother. They damn sure were.
They're the Falcons now.
Some guy didn't like the Patriots because, oh my God, I'm offended. Holy crap. But when I went to Terwilliger as a Twister, the Oaks Mall was a horse pasture. There was no Oaks Mall. And I'm a Bobcat, Buchholz Black and Gold. and then off I went to Bama. So, and my family all went to Florida. Every one of them, mom, dad, brother, aunt, everyone, they went to Florida. My other aunt went to Florida State. She was a cheerleader, but she was on my dad's side. And my cousins went to Florida State too.
Zach wants to know on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, will there be any extra juice between the two coaches Saturday in the Swamp with how many Gator fans wanted Lane?
I mean,
could be late score or late timeout by either coach. I don't see Billy doing any of that. I could see Lane doing it. Like I saw something, I don't know if it was on that show last night or on Twitter that, I think now some of these 2-loss teams, JC,
yeah,
to secure that they get in, they got to really run the score up on people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Fashion points or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I listen, this is going to go to 16 teams, but right now we have 12. That's better than 4, which is better than 2. And I'm really excited about December, man. I can't wait. I hope we have a rooting interest, or I hope I do, but I know you've got Mississippi as a rooting interest. If they make it now, that would require them to beat Florida, and you're not rooting for that to happen. So you'll have to pick another team, QB. Sorry.
Say that again.
I'm saying we could have rooting interest in the playoffs since Florida will not be there.
Oh,
obviously my alma mater, and then your team you grew up with, but then the team you grew up with would have to win Saturday, and you're not hoping for that. So you'll have to pick.
I'm not hoping, but can upsets happen? Absolutely. I just think Ole Miss is very complete.
Right. So if you're sitting out there in Vegas, and I said this last week with the LSU game, as a 3.5-point dog, I thought that number was way too low. It turned out to be they were wrong. Mississippi's a double-digit favorite almost. Yeah. I mean, dude, that just tells you right now the respect that they're getting in Vegas, if you care about that kind of thing, and most people do. So that's a big number, man, for a team that just looked really good in their last 3 games at the Swamp, where finally only Gators have come out alive. Right? I mean, before
JC, did you just do your left? It's your right over left, JC.
Before it feels more normal to do this, but okay, I'll go like that. But before it was only Gators were hunted and killed in the Swamp. Now it's only Gators come out alive in the Swamp again, finally. And the last 3 games have been won by a grand total of 50 or more points, I guess it was, from Nick Delatorre. Thank you for that stat. But that's a good number to reclaim your home field by beating the hell out of teams that roll in here.
Our record under Billy at home is pretty good. The road record is not good.
Not good.
AU Gator on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, says, wondering if y'all could address what Florida seniors will be honored Saturday. All the seniors will be honored.
Yes.
Chim Dike, Elijah Badger. I'm sure Jason Marshall Jr. will be honored, even though he's not playing.
Yes.
I don't have the whole roster in front of me, but if you're a senior, whether you're a walk-on or not, you will be honored.
As you should.
Before the game kicks off.
As you should.
All right, JC, Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte surrounding areas. Go visit peachlanddental.com. We got the NFL game tomorrow night. Who's playing?
All right. In the National Football League, you've got these guys right here, the Pittsburgh Steelers playing at Cleveland. Whoop-de-doo. Cleveland's a struggling team. Jameis Winston is their quarterback. And for all of you partaking on the Hard Rock on this game, which is probably the only way you can end up watching this game unless you love Pittsburgh or Cleveland, there will be about a 30 to 40 mile an hour wind issue there. It will likely be raining, and the under is looking really enticing in the high 30s right now for these two teams. Pittsburgh plays tremendous defense. All you had to do was watch what they did to Lamar in Baltimore. I don't see Jameis Winston being able to throw the ball in this game. They're going to give you as much Nick Chubb as they can, but Steelers will close that down. I like the Steelers in this game, something like 23-10. I mean, I just don't see a lot of points in this game with those weather conditions. You always said wind was hampered. It really hampered the passing game, and wind is tough to deal with when it's consistent at 30 to 40 miles an hour. Try playing golf with that. So I think it's the Steelers -3.5, and I'm all about the Steelers in this game. I think that's free money.
Yeah, I'll probably go with the Steelers too. They're playing good football right now.
And I'm not really thrilled with what Russell Wilson's doing, but he's not turning the ball over like he was in Denver. And I think they still can get first downs with Justin Fields on running plays if they need them. So I like Pittsburgh. Their defense is healthy. You've got T.J. Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick, who's one of the greatest football players to ever play at Alabama. So I think Pittsburgh is ripe for continuing to win this lead in this division. I think they're 2 games ahead of Baltimore, and Cincinnati and Cleveland are no factors now. So it's Pittsburgh's to lose, and I think they roll the Cleveland Browns. On Thursday in college, in college football, we've got North Carolina State at Georgia Tech. This is a pretty good ACC game. I don't know much of what North Carolina State.
Well, North Carolina State was ranked in the top 15 preseason.
Well, they're 5-5, and I know they've lost their quarterback, Grayson.
Like the Gators.
Yeah, but they lost their quarterback. Grayson McCall retired from football because of all of his head injuries. Georgia Tech with Haynes King needs to win this game. They're 6-4. They are an 8.5-point favorite because next week they go between the hedges, and Georgia better keep their attention on this game because Georgia Tech is going to play Georgia tough in Athens, but they're going to be a big underdog nonetheless. And I think Georgia Tech here laying 8.5 is too many points. I would take NC State getting the 8.5 in a close game that I think would be about a touchdown.
I'm going to take the Rambling Wreck to be different.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope they blow out NC State. But I think NC State is going to play hard. They're trying to get bowl eligible. These teams have a sense of urgency when they're sitting at 5 wins. They need to win this game to get to 6. Georgia Tech is already at 6. They are bowl eligible. But I like Georgia Tech to win. I'm just going to say by a touchdown. That's inside the 8.5.
All right, I'm going to read a couple of these texts and get out of here, and we'll get to Graham Hall. This is from Frank on the Titan our text line. Do you think Billy's passing concepts are dependent on a QB like Lagway to be effective? Some say receivers need to beat their man instead of a scheme that gets them open. Majority of the plays that DJ has hit, well, almost I'd say 90% of them are against man coverage. I think Badger and DK have had a phenomenal year getting open. We have trouble throwing the ball against zone coverage.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of concept. That's a little bit of DJ's not comfortable with zone, reading it. He's really good against man. Like I say it every day on this show. The easiest throws in football are down the field because they're safe and you ain't really got to read anything.
Yeah. I'd like to see this kid Livingston be more involved as well, or Boardingham or somebody like that. Mizell only 1 catch last week. So, Florida is every week it's somebody, right? And hopefully somebody will step up in this game that we've watched. But I'm excited to see who will be that person. And the fact that DJ is confident back there, it gives us
all right. Answer this, JC.
Real hope.
William says on YouTube, brought to you by Qualcomm, the drama of Billy versus Lane adds a great level of drama. Is Lane still the man if Billy beats him?
Well, I don't make one game determine for me.
Exactly.
It's not, you can't do that. You have to look at how this guy runs his program. And what Lane does is attract outstanding talent to a place like Oxford, Mississippi. Imagine what he could do at a place like, Gainesville, Florida, maybe. But whatever the case may be.
Or Baton Rouge.
Or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, wherever the case may be. This guy, I know he had a chance at USC. It didn't work out. But like I said, he's been learning as he goes. And that's what coaches do, right? They get smarter, not dumber, I hope. So I think you can't make that assessment over one game. But I think Lane Kiffin has done a great job at Mississippi this year. I think he's brought that program to prominence from where that was. And, listen, Pete Golding on defense, everybody wanted to run him out of Tuscaloosa. He has come into Oxford now and very quietly built a really good defensive football team. And that's not something I think you would have expected from Mississippi. But they got it now, and it's going to be a challenge for Florida, but it's also going to be a challenge for Mississippi in this game, and with the way Florida's playing at home. So it's going to be a tremendous afternoon. Ohio State, Indiana, Florida, Mississippi, and a bunch of games. It's just going to be tremendous. Texas A&M better not lose to Auburn. That's another one I'm going to say, because they're hanging by a thread as well. But if they beat Auburn and Texas, they're going to Atlanta. So lots on the line this weekend. Lots on the line this weekend.
This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life at Campus USA Credit Union. 1962, Mickey Mantle wins the AL MVP for his 3rd time.
What a great player. It's too bad he drank himself to death, but boy, was he good. God, my dad said he was the best switch hitter he'd ever seen in his life, and he was. He was. He hit a ball just as far left-handed as he could right-handed, and vice versa. He was one of the greatest ever. Number 7.
Here's Tony's comment to you, JC, regarding
Tony.
Lane. Like he ran the programs at Tennessee or USC.
I think Tennessee.
You
he had
gotta
one
put
year.
all that.
He had 1 year at Tennessee, and they were on the upswing. They almost beat Alabama had it not been for a blocked field goal attempt.
That's true.
But he had Tennessee on the right track, but he couldn't pass up that job in Los Angeles. He just couldn't. That's where he's from, basically. I mean, come on. But I think he had Tennessee on the right track, folks. But he is a very good coach. He gets players to show up, and he wins football games. What the hell else do you want as a fan base? What do you want? I mean, as a fan base. Come on, we're talking about Mississippi, Mississippi. I mean, that's what you're talking about. You're not talking about Ohio State. You're talking about Mississippi. And he's winning games, and it's got him in the playoff conversation. And all they have to do is win against Florida and Mississippi State, which they'll win. And he's on his way. He's on his way to, the land of milk and honey in the playoffs. That's where he's going, bro. But he's got to get through the swamp where only Gators come out alive.
All right, JC. Good job with your Gator chomp. Have a great day.
We'll see you on. Here you go, QB.
We'll see you on Friday. That's JC. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Take a quick timeout. Come back. We'll talk with Graham Hall from 24/7 Sports. You're watching.
But the hair, man. I love the hair. Love the hair.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. The Gridiron sponsors are Florida Cracker Kitchen, Comfort Temp, Peachland Dental, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Cogent Bank, UF Bookstores, Florida Victorious, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Electronics Swirl, Miapa Latin Cafe, 84 Lumber, Baker Sporting Goods, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, and Gator Bait Media. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever you're on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor and advertise, call our man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
After serving over 100 families over the past several years, we're super excited to kick off the holiday season. I'm Dylan. I'm Garrett. And we're Sunshine Holiday Lights. We all know how stressful it can be to decorate your home during the holidays. Our services include installation of all material, maintenance, takedown, and storage of the material throughout the year. If you want to spend more time with your family this year, give Sunshine Holiday Lights a call.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Miapa Latin Cafe. Discover the ultimate Cuban culinary experience at Miapa Latin Cafe with 5 locations in Gainesville and Alachua. You're never far from the best Cuban food north of Miami. Back to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, and we're coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. It's our man, Graham Hall from 24/7 Sports. What's up, my man?
I'm doing well. Good to be here, man. It's a exciting time right now in Gainesville. I always say this is my favorite month of the year, where you have basketball and football ongoing. It is never a dull moment here, and certainly good to talk about the Gators after a big win over LSU.
Yeah, speaking of basketball, did you go to the game last night?
I did. They got some things to work on, and it's good to see that this team is not complacent even after a double-digit win. They were a 32.5-point favorite, even missing 2 key guys in Denzel Aberdeen and Sam Alexis, but some stuff that they can clean up. Didn't get some great shots to fall around the rim. They're going to be just fine, but good to know that they want to continue to improve even after beating a team by double digits.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to next weekend. They're going to play in that tournament or whatever it is down there at the Milk House, whatever they call it now at Disney, where you can, you're eating your Thanksgiving dinner or lunch, and you can watch the Gators play basketball. So should be fun. All right, back to the Gator football. Obviously, big win against LSU. A lot of people are feeling really good right now. Recruiting, supposedly, we flipping people, which I know people are excited, but those kids could flip to another school in a couple of weeks. That's how crazy it is. But just first, let's talk about the recruiting, what the weekend was all about. I know they had a bunch of big time people on campus. Just your thoughts on how that went.
Well, I had said that I thought that recruiting was the main reason why Florida put out that statement, showing faith in Billy Napier being here as the coach. Because if you know negative recruiting, that had been prolific in Gainesville throughout the last year for Billy Napier. I mean, you had coaches from Georgia, Miami, Alabama, you name it, who are using Florida's instability at head coach as a reason why kids shouldn't go there. And so they weren't able to get the kids that they wanted to commit, even though they were, recruiting at a high level. They weren't getting commitments at a high level. And so I think it's no surprise that you put that statement out in the last, 2 weeks now, not even, that they've flipped 4 players from other schools, getting Evan Noel. I know it's a kicker. You always need a good kicker. You think you don't need one until you actually do in a game. And getting him as one of the top kickers in the nation, flipping him from Arkansas was big. Tramel Jones was a guy, I've said this before, that give Florida's coaching staff credit for not giving up. Even when they, like you just said, lose out on a verbal commitment, it doesn't mean that you should give up on a kid. And we've seen some previous coaching staffs who have lost out on someone in June and July, and they just kind of stopped contacting them. You can't do that anymore in the transfer portal era. Florida's coaching staff continue to recruit Jones, even though he didn't take a visit here in June and said he was locked in with FSU during the summer. They didn't give up on him. And you look at what FSU's dumpster fire has, ballooned to in the last couple of months. Jones obviously wanted to look elsewhere. He saw the success that DJ Lagway had and figured that, this is a program that was one snap away from needing another quarterback to step in there. So they end up getting him from Mandarin in Jacksonville. Getting Stevan Shivers, a guy who'd been committed to Georgia as well, was big. And then I think one of the big ones that maybe people are overlooking because it's an offensive lineman, and I don't think you should, is getting Daniel Pierre-Louis. That's a guy who had been committed to FSU for the last month and a half. Florida's coaching staff only really offered him in the beginning of October, but they stayed on him. He realized with what was going on with FSU, them parting ways with Alex Atkins, the offensive line coach, that he wanted to open things back up. And he committed to Florida's coaching staff. Give John DeCoster a whole lot of credit for being able to land him. That is just a massive addition for Florida. So that's 4 commitments right there in the last 2.5 weeks. You got to give Florida's coaching staff some credit, but I think it's a big reason why they put out that statement, putting faith in Billy Napier, because when you do that and you have a little bit more security, no matter how long it is, you're going to be able to land prospects that maybe weren't looking at you previously, thinking that you weren't going to, be there in a couple of months. And so that has certainly helped Florida. And, they're not done, getting, Jamie French on campus, a guy who previously, committed Texas and was looking elsewhere. Naeem Offord is still, I think, in the mix for Florida. Dallas Wilson, if they can get Dallas Wilson, I mean, this wide receiver class would be fantastic with Burnell Brown, having Nashawn Montgomery in the mix as well. So they got some work still to do here with looking from a numbers perspective, only having 15 commits. They're obviously not done. They're going to look to add a handful more players before the early signing period gets here, which is going to creep up on us faster than normal, being in that first week of December rather than towards the tail end of December there. So they got a little work to do here in the next couple of weeks, but off to a really solid start over the past couple of days.
Rob wants to know on YouTube, brought to you by Quad Plum, which 5-star do we have the best shot at? French, Wilson, or Solomon Thomas?
I mean, that's a tough one. I think that French is open more to Florida than he was a couple of months ago. I think previously that he had kind of ruled, Florida out. He was still listening to Florida, but they weren't really not at the top of his list for a while. I think that has changed when you have a quarterback like DJ Lagway, who is exciting, and when you have an offense that hasn't hesitated to put young players on the field, that can be enticing to a young wideout. So I think that he is looking more at Florida. But if I had to pick one of those 3, I would say Solomon Thomas. I think that guy, just given some of the situations in college football right now, given Florida's needs, is taking a long, hard look at Florida. If they can manage to get him in this class, a 5-star offensive lineman, that would be massive for Florida, just given the state of offensive line recruiting, how tough it is to get guys of that caliber to commit to your program. I think Florida has a really good chance, given the stability that they have along the offensive line, how the offensive line has played throughout the year after kind of an undesirable start So I would say Solomon Thomas, but I also wouldn't rule out Dallas Wilson being a possibility. If you can get any of those guys in this class, that would be a huge win for Florida. I don't think they can give up on any of them. But, even if you just get one, you're doing really, really well in my mind.
I mean, we're talking a lot of wide receivers here because you got to have good wideouts, but it just seems like, we've had some highly touted ones. Trey Wilson, obviously he's injured. We don't know what his status is going to be next year. He's out for this year. Mizell's come on at times, but it seems like Billy and his staff, they go recruit all these high school kids, but then we end up going and getting veterans out of the portal with Pearsall, DK, Badger. Now, those guys have all produced at a high level. That going to scare any of these young kids off?
I think it's possible. I think that Eugene Wilson, like you mentioned, using him from the jump as a freshman, the opportunities that he has had have kind of negated some of those fears in a way. Tank Hawkins has been used in the game plan consistently, even though he's been banged up at times. TJ Abrams as well. He's had his opportunities. Aiden Mizell maybe has seen his usage waver a little bit, but like you mentioned, he has some veterans ahead of him, and this team certainly needs, I think, an abundance of wide out options, and you need some veterans in there, especially if, no disrespect to the veterans Florida had at the position, but, Marcus Burke and Jaquavion Frazier's, as much as Florida has used them, they really don't have the skill set of guys like DK and Badger have. So I think a positive outlook could be that Florida hasn't been complacent with the veterans that it did have at wide out. Even though they had guys like Burke and Frazier's there, they realized that they needed a little more leadership in the room to provide some aid for the young guys in the building. And hopefully, with retention being probably a little bit less common in college football, that you can keep some of these young guys and develop them into veterans, and then they can be the ones, rather than having to go into the portal and bring in new veterans every single year. You'd hope for a healthy program, and that's where you get to. But Florida realized that they didn't have veteran wide receivers that they could lean on. And while they want to use the young guys as well, they knew that they needed some proven guys in the building. And I think DK as well, he has proven to be an elite punt returner. I don't know if anyone that Florida had on their roster, even though they had speed, was as capable as him as a punt returner, was patient enough, was able to work on, punt coverage as well. I know he muffed that one against LSU, but he recovered it, and that's what all we should remember, right? So I do think that getting those guys was massive, but maybe it'll scare off guys a little bit. But I think Florida's lack of hesitance to use the young guys is aiding them more than the veterans are hurting them right now.
DK's been phenomenal on special teams this year, been outstanding. All right, real quick, let's get to this game coming up. Obviously, the LSU game was a big win, but we got a different animal rolling in here Saturday. Man, what an opportunity for the Gators to upset Ole Miss, knock Ole Miss out of the playoffs. Graham, I think Ole Miss, I've said it all year long, I think they're the most complete team in the SEC, even with 2 losses. How do you see what has to happen for the Gators to win the game?
I mean, you got to win the battle in the trenches, right? I mean, this is a Florida offensive line that has allowed the fewest sacks with LSU this season in the SEC, just giving up 13 sacks after last year. They gave up 39. You're going to have to keep the talented edge rushers out of the backfield and keep protecting DJ Lagway so he has a chance to make those excellent downfield throws that we've seen. You're going to have to run the ball at an effective rate. We've seen 100+ rushing yards the last 3 weeks. That's got to continue. Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson have to continue to be effective and pick up yards so Florida's offense isn't one-dimensional. But really defensively, I think, is the biggest aspect of this game for Florida. If they can get to the quarterback like we saw last week against LSU, they're going to have their chances to get some takeaways, punch the football out, and get Florida favorable field position. And they're going to have to cover well in the secondary. Those guys are gassed. I hope that they got a good night's sleep Saturday night and got to rest all day Sunday. I mean, playing 93 snaps in the secondary, a bunch of young guys too, from Jordan Castell, Dijon Johnson, Bryce Thornton. That's 3 underclassmen right there. And then Triquez Bridges, a guy who was playing safety for much of the season and moved over to cornerback, the position he played at Oregon. For those guys to play 90+ snaps and do it effectively against a pretty potent quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier is absolutely impressive in my mind. But they're going to need to do it against Jackson Dart and this team. I'm not of the belief, not to kind of pivot here a little bit, I'm not of the belief that Ole Miss is going to come in here and steamroll Florida. I think it's going to be a much closer game than Vegas imagines right now. I think it's going to come down to a handful of plays You know, I got to be quite honest. I don't think that Ole Miss is as healthy as they have led on. We'll see if Trey Harris plays, but I got to be honest, Shane, and no one out here take my word for it, but from what I've heard, if the game were to happen today, I don't think Trey Harris plays for
Really?
Ole Miss. I don't think it's a given necessarily that he goes out there. And if he is able to go, I don't think he's going to be his usual self here. So I don't think this is going to be a game. And you look at their running back room, losing Henry Parrish,
Yeah.
what the situation is with Ulysses Bentley, I don't really know. Maybe you see some of Logan Diggs here, but this is not an Ole Miss offense that I think is as healthy as it was to begin the season, and that could be something that Florida looks to take advantage of in this contest on Saturday. I do have no doubt that Lane Kiffin's going to want to come in here and run up the score if he can. I just don't know if they're going to have all the pieces available to do it.
What is Trey Harris's injury, by the way?
I honestly don't know. I wish I paid more attention to some of the other teams in the SEC.
Yeah, he's
We
been hurt a
unfortunately got our
while.
own ducks to keep in a row.
Yeah, no question about that. Um, Gosh, I just lost my train of thought what I was going to ask you. Real quick, well, hopefully I can remember what it was. Somebody wants to know where they can find baseball recruiting.
I mean, Perfect Game does a fantastic job. I think that it's always hard to kind of cover some of the recruiting commitments in baseball because also I'm of the mind, and don't take my word for it, but I learned their names when they sign with Florida. Just knowing that, when you get into you get into the MLB draft season, and even guys who've been committed to you for a year and a half, they could hear their name called, and then all of a sudden, they're heading to the minor leagues. So, Perfect Game does a great job. Jacob Rudner, my coworker, does a fantastic job covering baseball over at Swamp 247. He's got a great baseball mind as well. So make sure you follow his coverage. But baseball recruiting, we cover the portal, I think, at a little bit of a higher rate just because we know those guys are going to come to Gainesville in the next year and usually make an immediate impact. So, but this team has a lot of young arms. They're going to rely on some freshmen this year that you should learn their names of already. I mean, Kevin O'Sullivan, once again, from hearing through the grapevine, feels like he has a very, very talented team. You're going to see Pierce Coppola back. They're going to rely on a lot of these guys who maybe didn't have huge opportunities last year, or they were coming back from injury, but then you saw some promise from them late in the season. So once again, they feel like they are extremely capable this year, and I'm excited about this baseball season. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I remember what I wanted to say because Andy on Facebook Live brought to you by Melon Law he asked, will we ever see Andy Jean play again? And I wanted to bring up the receiving thing because, we have a lot of those young guys, where Tank Hawkins played a little bit here and there. The problem is we never go 4 wides or 5 wides, right? We never have more than 3 legitimate wide receivers on the field at a time. So a lot of guys don't get a whole lot of playing time. I've been trying to get somebody in the media to ask Billy if we will ever see 10 personnel or 0 personnel, meaning 4 eligible wide receivers or 5 eligible wide receivers. So Graham, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can you ask that one day to Billy? Because in 3 years, almost through 3 years, we have not seen it one time, right? But anyway, back to Andy Jean. Will we ever see him play?
Well, to answer your question, I can ask that absolutely, but I hate to be spoiler. I know what Billy Napier is going to say, that they think that they have the most success when they have 1 or 2 tight ends on the field.
Which I agree, but hell, when you're in a 2-minute drive, let's put our 4 or 5 fastest dudes out there and let's go play. But anyway,
I'm with you there. No, I'm with you there. And no disrespect to some of the players on the roster, I would like to see Andy Jean get more of a shot over some other guys that they've played. Maybe some, like I mentioned, some of the veterans who you've seen enough out of them and they've got the reps and just haven't been as effective as you would like. I don't know what Andy Jean's situation is. I don't know. I've seen all the speculation. I hope that he has a great career, whether it's at Florida, whether it's at elsewhere. He's a really nice kid. Unfortunate the amount of injuries that he has had. He was limited in spring camp. He was banged up in fall camp. He was banged up all of last year. I mean, that's missing quality reps like that in practice and missing your opportunities in games can not just hinder your development, but it can be demoralizing. You can start to think that you're getting overlooked and passed up on, and you want a clean start somewhere else. And, So I wouldn't blame him for thinking that. I hope that he still gets a chance to produce at Florida. I think he's really talented. I just don't know if you're going to see it this year. Maybe he can head into his, junior year and really, capitalize on the potential that we all know that he has, that you saw at the high school level. I just don't know if Florida's maybe against FSU, they try and run it up a little bit and they go 5 wide and you see Andy Jean out there get 30 snaps. That would make me smile. I'll be quite honest, because, what a way to kind of throw some looks to your rival that they haven't seen all season long and do it with some guys who maybe thought that they weren't going to get an opportunity this season and then they get one to get in the end zone against a rival. I would love that personally. I don't know if we'll see it, quite frankly.
I just want to see 4 wides. Just 4.
He doesn't have high expectations. He doesn't have high
expectations. 4 guys that are listed in the program as wide receivers.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see it too. I'll be quite honest. I don't know. I do want to give Hayden Hansen some credit. He has really improved. I understand why Billy wants to use him at a high rate. They need better blocking.
He's a tight end, Graham.
I know he is.
Tight end.
Well, he's a former quarterback. I was calling for him to maybe get some snaps when, no offense to Aiden Warner, that was a guy who moved from quarterback to tight end. Maybe give Hayden Hansen a shot. I don't know, or go Wildcat. I thought that it was really impressive what he's been able to do this season, though. He's improved. That pass he caught with 5 minutes left against LSU in the middle of the field, that was massive. I don't think people were expecting it. They were expecting 3 straight run plays and to kind of let the time trickle down a little bit. You get a first down, you catch LSU a little bit off guard, wondering what you're going to do, and then boom, Jaden Boss springs one. And Hansen's blocking on that play to go from getting the first down. And Hansen, Elijah Badger, Austin Barber, you often don't give credit to the blocking when you get a massive run, but that play does not happen without those guys. So I don't know if there would have been another young wide receiver who would have been able to block like that downfield, 20 yards downfield. So I'm a big Hayden Hansen guy, but I would love to see 4 wide. I'm with you. I'm torn for sure.
Just a couple times a game. All right, before we get you out of here real quick, somebody asked, is there any truth that Billy will be forced to hire an OC?
I've heard this a good bit. I think that they have a few more pressing things that they want to take care of. Maybe, if they reshuffle the coaching staff, looking at some of the other coaches on the roster, evaluating them, I could see it leading to a true OC. I'm personally of the opinion that, and you have said this before here, but correct me if I'm wrong, the offensive play calling is not the biggest issue at Florida in my mind. I think that there have been some mistakes, absolutely, some questionable calls. I don't disagree with that whatsoever, but I do think that it's not as bad as everyone has made it out to be. If I'm Billy Napier and I'm hiring an offensive coordinator, the reason I'm doing it isn't because I think it's going to absolutely take my offense to an incredible next level, especially if you get DJ Lagway back. You maybe want some continuity there, just like they wanted with Graham Mertz. If I'm Billy Napier and the reason I'm hiring an offensive coordinator is to get some of these dang people off my back, because that's why you do it, is so when you have a bad play call, you can stand up there as a head coach and be like, I didn't call that play. I think that that's the reason. Limit some of the criticism in today's day and age. Head coaches already have so much that they're going to be called out for, from roster management to play calling decisions, who they hire. If you can take away some of the in-game pressure and just oversee everyone and be kind of that, let's use that term, game manager. Let's use it for a head coach. If you can take some of the pressure off of you as a head coach, why not do it, in my mind? That seems like it would make more sense to me. Maybe I'm just thinking a little bit too simple here, but that's why I think Eli Drinkwitz did it. Take some pressure off you as a head coach. Let people criticize you a little bit less. If Florida feels like they can repair Napier's reputation a little bit by having him do that and try and convince some of that, I think that would be a primary motivator for him. But also, if there's a young OC out there that he likes, why not take a shot and bringing him in and reshuffling your coaching staff a little bit, even though you've seen this coaching staff, I think, have the most success of any of Napier's 3 here in Gainesville. It's going to be interesting to see the offseason, what they end up doing.
Yeah, we'll see, because, the terminology, learning the system. Do you want DJ to have to learn something else? That's not just DJ, but the other young guys as well. Now, if you bring in a new OC, maybe he has to learn Billy's terminology and put all his plays into what they already know. We'll have to wait and see. Graham, great stuff as always. Let everybody know how they can follow you.
Swamp247.com. Make sure you read all our work. We got basketball coverage, football coverage. recruiting, you name it. If you're looking to sign up, next week is probably the time. If you're not a member of our community, we're going to have a 75% off sale for annual subscriptions for Black Friday. So take advantage of that. And you can follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I don't care, over at Graham Hall. And looking forward to doing this pretty soon here. Maybe after the season, we can talk about how everything once the dust is settled. Thanks, Shane.
Yep. Good stuff as always. Appreciate it, buddy. That's Graham Hall.
My pleasure.
Does a
Y'all take
tremendous
care.
job covering the Gators. Make sure you go follow him, folks. Hope you enjoyed today's program. We'll be here tomorrow. Have a great day. Take care.